Welcome everyone, KD here. And a short disclaimer before we start: if I added you on Twitter and you think now who is this fucking nobody with his small channel looking for attention, I added you because you get the mention in this video, and because I only have a small YouTube channel you probably wouldn't see this video otherwise. I want to give you a chance to respond because I don't like it to be sneaky and talking about others without them having the chance to respond. You of course don't have to respond to me absolutely if you feel I'm just doing this for attention. I'm doing this however because I believe it's the right thing to do. With that out of the way, let's talk about Alita and the death of criticism. So I went to see Alita Battle Angel. These days I'm not really going to the movies anymore because most of the stuff Hollywood is doing is just absolute garbage or a boring rehash at best. But there was something different surrounding this movie what made me curious, and this was the audience reaction that didn't seem in some way right, even before I saw the movie. You know, we are used to critics taking up arms and chilling to the death for a movie, and then the audience fighting back to bring the score down or up, things like that. This is the first time the audience is pushing a narrative and trying to make a movie in something that it just isn't. We come of course back to this. So out of curiosity I went to watch Alita Battle Angel, but because I'm not a movie critic and I don't want to hurt anyone's feeling and have just endless respect for anyone that likes this movie and of course the source material, I don't want to give you my critique and will just end the video here because everything is anyway pointless. Fuck you. Of course I won't shut up. Everyone seems to believe that criticism is some kind of evil entity or something like that, and no one is allowed to use it anymore. I of course don't believe in that. I think criticism is extremely important for someone to grow and get better in anything. Art, sport, his job, anything. So that's why here is my criticism of Alita Battle Angel. Alita Battle Angel was a fine movie, as long as no one was talking. Every time there was some kind of dialogue, the movie got unbearable. I don't know why the movie had so horrible dialogue. I guess they tried very hard to be as close to the source material as possible and took the dialogue directly from the manga that was written in the 90s and translated from Japanese. But it's probably not the best combination for an audience in 2019. Other than that, the romantic interest guy was just, I don't want to say bad, because I probably couldn't do a better job, but let's just say it wasn't an Oscar-worthy performance. Because of him and the cheesy dialogue, I thought first that it was generally a bad acted movie, but that wouldn't be fair. I guess most of them did their best with the things they had, and that was often not a lot, absolutely, when we look at the one-dimensional enemies. I felt that Christopher Waltz was miscast. For me, he just didn't feel like he belonged in this setting. That's maybe just me and my own bias, because I love Inglourious Basterds and I guess I still see him in this role. The story had some terrible pacing issues and at the end fell completely apart. Just jumped from one place to another, tried to do too much in a way too short time span, and still managed to focus on useless stuff like terrible romances. My recommendation: get rid of all the scenes in the arena and about this strange ball game. I'm sure this was important in the source material, but it did bring absolutely nothing to the story of the movie. Nothing. No character or world development. It was just eye candy. One of the most important rules of story writing is to remove everything useless. This would have been probably 20 to 30 minutes of screen time that could have been used for world and character building. But that's just me. But hey, the CGI looked great most of the time. Sometimes they had some issues with her face in some perspectives. That was a problem for me because it takes you out of the movie if your main character looks slightly different in every scene. I like the bar scene and wish the doctor wouldn't have stopped the fight and the most boring mechanical enemy I have ever seen would have shown up. This guy had one single trick, not even a pretty good one. He just stretched his fingers a little bit, and he couldn't do this with only one hand. The worst part is that Alita fights this useless guy over and over again. What a waste of good action scenes. At least make him interesting. Put a rocket booster in his ass and make his other arm into a sledgehammer or something like that. Just make a little bit more out of him, seriously. It also make the scene in the underground completely ridiculous. He has one attack. You don't fucking jump through the middle of it. You make one sidestep and you have all the time in the world to counter. Also, his attack is completely useless in short range, so you just have to go close to him. Also, we established that his finger cannons, or however you want to call it, is a piercing weapon, but for some strange reason she gets cut in pieces by it. How is it possible? Also, we are not in the early 2000s anymore. Matrix and Spartacus is not a big deal anymore. Cut down the slow-mo, it feels very fast, extremely overused. So overall, it wasn't the best movie, and I know for thinking this I'm a complete shill, an SJW, NPC, and I hate, of course, white men. But wait a moment, I also didn't like The Last Jedi. So I'm also a toxic fan, a racist, and I hate women. Let's just say I hate everyone and everything because I have an opinion that is sometimes different than other opinions. Then the 94% audience score on Rotten Tomateos is definitely more realistic for this movie than the 60% critics score. The critics definitely want to make the movie look bad because, I don't know, Captain Marvel or something like that. I mean, it is of course impossible that when you like something and someone else critiques it, that these are his honest feelings. Impossible, right? Everyone with the wrong opinion is a toxic, racist, and sexist. No, wait, wrong. An NPC and a shill, or I don't know anymore. It's just a movie, and it should be allowed to have a different opinion about the movie without being called stuff and labeled something. Alita is not a masterpiece, so don't try to make it one because you want to make a point against SJWs. It's just a movie. Escapism, and you ruin it by giving it an agenda. What SJWs do this, you guys do it. You put politics and identity politics into Alita. But now my critics are of course full of shit, right? So let's listen to some fellow YouTubers and film critics and listen what they have to say.
What do you guys think?
The CGI was spectacular.
Wow.
The acting was good. But once you got to the story...
And writing. And the lines.
And dialogue. And the most... Okay, guys, let me break it. I think at some point the movie completely loses me. And it could never get me back because it was just beating me over the head with the stupidest dialogue, the stupidest random pointless speeches. I think that's where it lost me.
I told you when the trailer first came out months ago that when you have this...
You predicted
this dopey idiot looking at a robot girl saying, "You're the most human being I've ever seen in my entire life." And
I was like, oh my God, please let that be just a small, tiny little...
Everything that idiot said the entire time. And he was actually pretty good.
No, he was not good.
Well,
not to me.
There were parts where...
I felt that this movie was derailed by the love story. If they would have focused on Alita, her battle prowess and the war.
But instead we get some fucking stupid Twilight bullshit.
Yes, but
really isn't. I would say really the only negatives to this movie has to do with two particular characters. Now you had, I can't even remember the guy's name, but the main male love interest, Hugo, the actor they got for him was terrible. Fucking terrible. Every minute he was on screen, I'm just like, this guy fucking sucks. I had flashbacks of Hayden Christensen in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, every time this guy opened his mouth. It was just bad. Now, Hayden Christensen's not a bad actor, so don't take this as a knock on him. Everyone was bad in those fucking movies. Even Ewan McGregor at some point. Samuel L. Jackson was just phoning it in. Imagine every time this guy was on screen, you had to deal with the "I hate sand" monologue or Anakin trying to seduce Padme.
Central romance in the film that came off a bit cheesy and a little melodramatic, and it didn't really work for me all the time. I didn't really believe it necessarily. As far as the villains as well, there's something that's used in the movie where The main bad guy is Nova, who's up on Zalem, and he's controlling people and speaking through them in a way. And so you never really get the sense that he's all that involved. He's kind of like the Emperor, you know, like you've heard about him, but you don't really get to see that much of him until Return of the Jedi. And then you're like, okay, I see how he's had his hands in all these things. And so some of the confrontations in the film between good and evil felt a little one-dimensional because I didn't really feel the villain as a presence. Because this movie definitely wants to make other films in the franchise, which for some I'm sure will be a problem when you see one and then it's setting up another one and you feel like you didn't get what you wanted. Some people are going to be annoyed by that, and I totally understand that. At the same time, I think your enjoyment of this film is going to heavily rely on how much you like anime or manga, because this film is unapologetically in your fucking face about being anime.
I think that there's a lot of people missing what's going on in terms of the story. The story is not bad. Where I think people are not liking the story has to do with some choices with execution. And really everything cascades from a series of choices that they made in how they were going to execute the first third of the movie, the exposition of the movie. Because what you have here is a task that's almost impossible to complete the way it's set up, and with 2 hours of screen time to actually tell the movie. If you had 3 hours, you could maybe do the movie differently, where you get this cascading effect where as you lose time in the beginning, you have to cut and lose time in the middle and the end, and that makes the middle and the end feel like they're a little rushed. And so that's part of the problem with the movie or the story execution. But I don't actually think it's too bad. I think it does what it does pretty well. I understood the story it was trying to tell, and I thought it did a pretty good job telling the story it was trying to tell. I think maybe people were trying to get a different story out of it than what they got.
The romance between her and the dude didn't really stick the landing for me, just didn't. And some of the actors I felt were wasted. Jennifer Connelly could have been played by anybody. Mahershala Ali, one of the go-to, if not best actors working right now. And again, he's just kind of wasted in the movie. Could have been played by a myriad of people. I was thinking, all right, if this movie sucks, I feel like Mahershala Ali will totally Raul Julia this thing. That is Raul Julia from Street Fighter, where it's like he totally elevates the movie. And I will argue anybody on that fact, he totally does. But now Mahershala Ali, he's good, but he's just there. Again, I feel like he could have been played by one of many people. And this movie deals with, this is one of those things where I'm like, the manga had to have touched on this. This is a pretty beloved series, and I refuse to believe the beloved series is, oh, hey, here's a story about a girl who can't lose a fight. So when you have a system that's like, oh, high society in the floating city, and then everyone dwelling in the shithole, you can touch on some deeper themes of social dynamics, social construct. Also, with the cyborg girl, you know, being the star of it, and other people with cybernetic implants, what makes us human? And I touch on it and critique it because it's not like these themes aren't in here. They're here to a superficial level, but they never really hit them home to a cerebral degree. Would have liked for the movie to go a little deeper. This story, because I've seen the collection of books, I don't know how much of it they crammed into this one movie, but I feel like it was a lot. So this movie runs into what a lot of stories in its shoes run into, which is we want to cram as much of the story in this one movie as possible, if it flows or not. And really the story would have benefited being an HBO show or something, to have 12 hours to really dedicate to the story. But at that point, the show wouldn't have looked as impressive as the movie did. So the visuals would take a hit, but the storytelling would be better. I would prefer the storytelling over the visuals, but as it stands, the movie feels very crammed.
I don't know about you guys, but I see a theme here. It seems that most of them didn't like the story and the acting of one particular guy, while enjoying the CGI and the action. I mean, could it be possible? And I know this is of course an absolute unrealistic thing, but maybe, just maybe, some people care more about the story than visuals, and maybe, just maybe, because of that, they didn't like the movie so much, and not because of Captain Marvel. Just something you can think about for a moment. By the way, most of these reviews about Alita were positive, except for AngryJoe's. He was more critical, and he got a lot of hate for that. Some very nasty personal attacks, and he couldn't really comprehend why people reacted like this. So he made the follow-up video to try to understand the situation better. So listen, AngryJoe, this has nothing to do with you. In 2019, it is absolutely forbidden to have an own opinion and criticize something. You get immediately a stupid label plastered on your forehead. You can't enjoy media anymore. Talking about it and discuss different opinions, it's just not possible anymore. And that's why I say criticism died in 2019 with this film. Everything has an agenda now. If the JWs don't give lit an agenda, then others will take it to make a point against SJWs, as if this was still necessary to make a point against them nowadays. Listen, I'm fully aware of how dangerous these people are. They not only ruin hobbies, entertainment and escapism, but also livelihoods and more. And I completely agree that we have to defend our hobbies from them and even have to fight back if necessary. But there is a big difference in defending a hobby and weaponizing a movie to attack them. In SJW media attacked Alita that she was too sexy and everyone made a video making fun of them. I'm not absolutely for that. I mean, I like big bouncy anime boobs as much as the next guy, but there was nothing sexualized about Alita. What I mean with weaponizing a movie is to twist the facts so that you can build a narrative, a case against SJWs. You know, the exact same things that SJWs do. Let me show you some examples because I like to throw people under the bus. That was a joke, by the way. Anna, what are you doing with that thumbnail? I watched this video. Instead of talking about Alita, use your video to complain about Captain Marvel. There is no Alita versus Captain Marvel. These two movies have nothing in common, except if you care that there is a female lead. Well, I don't. Watching your clip, it doesn't feel like you care about Alita, at least not more as you care about Captain Marvel. And you misuse Alita for making Captain Marvel look bad. And I don't understand why you have to do that. Captain Marvel will fail or succeed on its own. Odin, I watched both of your 20-minute videos, the one you made for Geeks and Gamers and the one on your own channel, and I feel, to be honest, dishonest. You try to gaslight people into thinking that there is some kind of conspiracy against Alita by critics. Why? I don't know. Why is the movie so important to you? In the first one I watched, the one you put on Geeks and Gamers, you named it something like "We showed these NPC critics." You never once showed us what an actual movie critic has to say. You don't show us all these NPC critics reviews. Instead, you go over articles by journalists, not critics, journalists, that made wrong predictions about the box office of Alita and are twisting the facts so they don't look stupid. No shit, man. Journalists are lying, trying to force a narrative in something. What else is new? Did you know Ice is Cold has absolute nothing to do with the critic score of Alita Battle Angel, by the way. You also tell us how amazing the movie is. Actually, you don't. You just say it's an amazing movie, and then you seem to have problems to find words why it's such an amazing movie. Sorry, man, it feels dishonest. Second video I watched was the one on your own channel. This time you show us the Rotten Tomato critic score, but again, you fail to show us what the critics have to say about the movie. You show us one critic, a guy that is absolutely irrelevant outside of Star Wars, and then more articles. Explain to us that we can't trust the critic scores because, and here it comes, The Last Jedi's critic score. Dude, that's so fucking gaslighting, man. The Last Jedi's critic score and Alita's score has nothing to do with each other. And you failed to show us how NPC critics purposely pushed down Alita's score. Tell us that we can't trust critics' scores, and you are right. But the same with the audience score. I mean, I'm sorry if you like Alita. Be honest, really honest. Is this a movie that deserves a score in the 90s? Is this a timeless masterpiece you will watch over and over again, and people will talk about it in years coming? Anyway, why do you think I say you shouldn't trust audience score either? Because everyone is different. Everyone likes things that others don't like, and the opposite. If you look at the Alita scores, I'm definitely more on the critic side than the audience. When I look at The Last Jedi, I'm agreeing more with the audience. Actually, that's not true. The audience score is too high for The Last Jedi. That movie was so bad it honestly offended me as a human being. You know, the people going to Rotten Tomato and leaving an audience score are mostly guys who loved or hated the movie, or people who just loved to leave a critic for a movie they saw, or for maybe they do this just for every movie they see. The casual viewer, he doesn't go to Rotten Tomatoes to score a movie absolutely if it was just mediocre. I'm sorry, Odin, this is nothing personal. I just think you can do better than this. And if you really think I'm wrong, please show me these evil NPC reviews that push the score down and prove your conspiracy. As C reviews, love you man, so I won't be too harsh with you, of course. I mean, I don't think I'm too harsh with anyone. I'm not here to make enemies, I'm just honest about how I see things. You actually made a video showing what the critics have to say on Rotten Tomatoes. Your videos are not live, but I never had the feeling that you didn't do first-time reaction and that you weren't honest with your reactions. And if I'm wrong, maybe you should start an actor career. You could replace Alita's love interest. Anyway, but because of that, you kinda can see that you are maybe a little bit disappointed that you couldn't find these SJW reviews, people saying the movie was bad because Alita is too sexy and white man evil and Trump. I mean, you found some overly negative reviews, but not enough to prove that the critics purposely pushed the score of the movie down. And I also didn't see any virtual signaling or anything like that in these reviews. I have a question for you, however. Now, some days after watching the movies and making comments about it, do you really believe that there is some kind of conspiracy against Alita? Or maybe, just maybe, you like the movie that others didn't like so much? I'm sorry that I can't go through your video in more details, but this commentary is already way too long and I link to your video is in the description. I want to wrap this up now. Okay, this here is a re-edit, so I'm really sorry. I didn't script this, I just make this on the go. I don't even know if I put this in the video. For different reasons I will come to, so SC Reviews uploaded the video while I was editing my video. So I'm so slow with editing that and the word moves just so too fast, so I kind of have to do an update here. So actually he already did another video here. You see Alita Battle Angel beats expectations in China. Again, Alita succeeds. And the same thing for Odin. I just see Alita videos from these two guys. Yeah, you guys chill the shit out of this movie. Anyway, kind of why I didn't want to. Why I'm not sure if I put this section into my video are two. So first, I don't really like to be on this position and call people out for things they just for things that I'm not even sure what is going on. To be honest, it's just really strange. The second thing is because he changed the thumbnail and the title of the video. So now it's Rotten Tomatoes critic rating is meaningless. Before it was something like Alita Battle Angel proves that critics are wrong, or that critics something like that. I probably will. I made a screenshot. I will put probably the title somewhere up here. And that was kind of like, okay, people, including me, called him out for the title and he changed it. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe I won't put this in the video. But on the other hand, everything is so strange and I just kind of feel I want to know what is going on here. So anyway, to this video here, why the title he had before and the thumbnail before was so misleading is because it has nothing to do with Alita Battle Angel. Absolutely nothing. The first 6 minutes were about Rotten Tomatoes and how you can count as an official critic for Rotten Tomatoes. That's all fine. The second part is just the problematic part, because it shows us what the critics said and things like that. But like you see here on the video, it wasn't about Alita. It was everything about Ghostbusters. And two problems here. First, I put Alita Battle Angel up. Let's go to the critic score. First problem is I don't see any single proof that Alita Battle Angel was purposely, the score for Alita Battle Angel was purposely pushed down, so it is rotten or anything like that by the critics. With that, I'm not saying that the critic have not done shitty things in the past. I mean, Last Jedi and Ghostbusters are proof that they can absolutely shill for movies, but there's just no proof here. And you guys just want to create this narrative that the critics push this movie down. So that's why let's just go to some of the critics. And let's go to the, because I don't want to make this forever, let's just look at the rotten ones, because that are the important ones. First here, I loved watching this sci-fi spectacle's moving parts. I just couldn't get past its brain. So I guess this is kinda in the direction I was saying, that it looked very well, interesting, and so on. But the story was just lackluster. So just to be clear, I don't say the story, the source material, or anything like that is bad. No, that's actually pretty good. The problem is how the movie was put together. It had just pacing problems and things that moved too fast. Sometimes it just didn't make sense how some characters acted and things like that. So let's just go further. Intending the movie should not come with homework assignments, and if a film only works if you study its backstory in advance, there is something terrible wrong. Again, narrative problems here. Nothing else. No, Alita is too sexy. No, the movie is bad because Trump and I hate our white man. Nothing like this. Basically, we're talking about a lot of human heads doing a lot of insulting and creeping and grunting and groaning while atop all manner of fighting cyborg bodies. Okay, this here is a little, I wouldn't agree with this one here. This is overly negative presented, the whole thing here. Again, do I see SJW an NPC narrative? No, not really. He just really didn't like the movie. Alita too often feels thin, despite the surfeit of heavy-hitting talent. Again, I think here he talks about the story. Here, the movie looks very well and things like that. It's more of a scavenger hunt than a movie. Again, narrative problems. The film fails to present a cohesive narrative to anchor its visual splendor, giving the audience plenty of entertaining sequences but little to root for. Again, all the critics are extremely similar. And some just didn't like how the story was built up. And there are issues with the story, with this movie. I don't know why we have to argue this. I mean, you enjoyed the movie, great. I don't want to take this away, but it doesn't mean it was a perfect movie in any way. Then the second thing, I had a problem with his video he made here. About this review, that he put he spinned it like this, that what we see here is the thing that is the full review of the critics. So he said, look how what stupid things they say in this small text and so on. And that's just false information, man. You're an intelligent guy. You know that this is not the full review. This is just an exposition, a title, a short summary of the context that is in the full review. if you want to see the full review, you have to click on their site, and that's the point. They make purposely provocative these expositions are I don't want to see this video, so I close it. They make purposely provocative expositions here, summaries here, so you click on their full review, so you go on their site to read the full review. That's the whole point of this here. These are not their complete reviews. This is, like I said, just a provocative exposition. And you really, in your video, you really say, no. It sounds, at least it's, maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like you say, no, this is the full review. That's what the stupid critics say. Again, critics did shitty stuff, and they will do shitty stuff in the future, but I don't see any proof that Alita was that the critic score in Alita was in any way manipulated by the critics or anything like that. What I see is this very similar critics that also that are the similar critics I have. These are similar critics that AngryJoe had. These are similar critics that the other guys I showed you had. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is something back there, but please, I see reviews, Odin, please show me these reviews that that push down the score here at Rotten Tomatoes. Of course, if you can show me this, I will do a video. I will say, I'm sorry, I take everything back, you're right. Even if you want me, I will take down this video, but you have to show me proof. I don't see a conspiracy from the sides of the critics. What I see is two guys who build a narrative around this movie, two guys who extremely shill for this movie, and I'm not really sure why you do that, why this movie is so important for you. I kind of have the feeling this movie is not that important for you, but it's important for you that this movie succeeds because of Marvel, Captain Marvel, and I just have to, if the Captain Marvel is bad, then just trust. You just have to trust into that the movie will fail to a certain point. I mean, of course, I think the first viewings will make quite a lot of money because it's a Marvel movie and things like that, and the normies will go watch this movie anyway. But if the movie is bad, then we will see a drop in the box office very fast, and you don't need Alita for that. So that's why I don't see why you guys have to make Alita into something that isn't that it just isn't. It's just a movie. Let it be just a movie. Just for once. Let just for once a movie be a movie. Thank you. Anyway, that I guess this is for it for the re-edit. I'm sorry, this video will be way too long. I wanted to make it shorter. And I'm sorry that this wasn't scripted or anything like that, but otherwise this video would never have been finished because I'm so slow with editing videos. So let's go back to the part that was, well, at least to the ending, that now we finally can wrap everything up. So let's go back to the ending of the original video without this re-edit. I don't think I can find another video that proves my point in any way better. Oh my god, what the hell is this? Alita Battle Angel warns against leftist utopias. Ben, come on man. Your whole spiel in this review is Alita good because SJWs. You don't even try to hide that you use this movie to fight against progressives. I mean, I understand, I know the YouTube game, it's all about clicks and views, but it wasn't the left that put politics in a movie that didn't have any agenda or social commentary in it. That was you, my friend. I'm so sick of all of this. Can't a movie just be a fucking movie? Does a movie without SJW propaganda so desperately need to make a point? What do you think you can gain from that? Why are you twisting facts, trying to prove something, building narratives that don't exist, and weaponize movies to virtue signaling? That's what fucking SJWs do. Don't you see that? What is a victory worth if you become what you're fighting against to achieve this victory? Nothing. That's how much. Absolutely nothing. I know you are sick hearing this, but we have to be better or we gain nothing. No one said doing the right thing was easy, and there aren't any shortcuts to the end. Patience will prevail. It already does, and you would see it if you took a moment to put your heads out of the sand and taking a step back to observe the situation. By the way, I can only recommend to you to read Animal Farm by George Orwell. Unlike Alita's live-action adaptation, Captain Marvel and SJWs, some things are timeless. Anyway, I will wrap this up here, even if I had a lot more to say. If you disapprove of my criticism for Alita Battle Angel, directly under the video, slightly to the right, you can see a symbol that looks like a thumb down. Press it to show your disapproval. Don't press accidentally the other button with the thumbs up. That would be disastrous. I would love to hear your thoughts about all this and comments. And please comment in the comment section. Thank you for watching this video.
And also, Alita never loses a fight. She never loses a fight. I kind of half take that back. There is one fight where she's in pretty bad shape by the end of it, but she still doesn't lose the fight. I don't know if it's a spoiler to say she never loses a fight. Like, she's in bad shape, but she never had that moment of having to retreat. Like, nope, can't fight that person now because that's a level 60, I'm a level 10. Gotta crawl away, go down a drain or something, and hopefully come back. This is like if you had Superman but no kryptonite. At that point, you gotta give them the tough decisions. There are a couple of tough decisions if I'm actually thinking back to it, but those tough decisions never made me like, oh my god, that's dark, that's a decision they have to make. It's not like she had to choose between this town getting nuked or the fault line getting split without the ability to fly around Earth backwards and reverse time. No, she's just badass. She's IDD, QD, and Doom badass. And that's pretty fun. I've done that. I've done the God mode code, like, alright, let's just waste demons. But then I eventually get sick of it and I'm like, alright, I want the thrill of possibly losing. That thrill is not even in here. Like, if you think back to a really old show that got canceled called Daredevil, the reason I like Daredevil is Daredevil got his ass beat quite a few times. He had to tuck tail and run away. Like, I gotta retreat. Can't do that right now. No, at a point, she's just unstoppable. She gets the Mario star. She's all dun 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 dun. You like my ninja moves? I made them up myself.